Hi everyone, welcome to Maximum Attack Rallying. I'm back. I am back. It has been a long time, but I have been dying. That's probably a poor choice of words. To get back to making videos, I thought I would do one today. Firstly, to give you a bit of an update about what's going on with me, but also to try and catch up on all things rallying, of which there are many. Things have been pretty busy in WRC terms over the last few weeks, and that's been frustrating for me because I haven't been able to talk about it. We've just had one of the most dramatic rally Finlands in recent memory. Sami Pajari has catapulted himself into the championship battle with 2 wins on the bout, while Sebastian Ogier has pretty much crashed out of it. This weekend, Elfyn Evans, John Armstrong, Nicolai Greisin, Johan Rossell, they will all be acquainting themselves with the forest tracks of Scotland ahead of next year's new UK WRC event. They are doing the Grampian Forest Rally, which is round 4 of the British Rally Championship, so do try and watch that if you're able to. 4-time American Rally Association champion Brandon Semenuk is also doing that event, so that's quite interesting. What else? We've had more regulatory nonsense, haven't we, for next season with Rally 2 Plus. I can't even begin to talk about that in this video. Maybe that's one for another day. The rally news story I did want to touch on is the announcement of a new promoter. We will get to that in a second. Sorry, I made notes. Look, I've made notes, and now I can't scroll down through them because I've forgotten how to make YouTube videos, it seems. We'll get to that. We'll get to the promoter. I think the first thing I want to do is thank each and every one of you that has commented, sent messages over the last few weeks. I can't tell you how much that means to me, how much I appreciate your support. As I said, I've hated not being able to make videos, and the fact that you've kept commenting, kept watching the old videos, it's made a really big difference, and it's really helped to keep me going through what has been a pretty crap time. Obviously, I'm back with this video. I'm feeling better. My voice is not perfect, as you can probably tell. My treatment finished just over 3 weeks ago. The side effects peaked probably 10 days after that. As you can tell, probably, I do look a bit different. So I've probably lost 15 kilos. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. I could have done with losing a bit of weight. My beard has been zapped out of existence pretty much. Sadly, the few hairs that have survived are the white ones. I don't know why that is. Hopefully that will come back though. So I look a bit weird at the moment. I look in the mirror and I feel like I look a bit weird. I also need a haircut. Hopefully we can deal with that in the next few days. I'm feeling better, but I am very much still in the recovery phase. I still need to get back to normal when it comes to eating. I'm not eating very much. Things are getting better. I can drink water again, which is amazing. I couldn't do that for a couple of weeks, which was as awful as you can imagine. Worst things at the moment, there's still quite a lot of phlegm, which is a bit disgusting, and I have no sense of taste at all. So I ate some chocolate ice cream yesterday and it tasted of nothing. So that's a bit weird. Hopefully things will keep improving though over the next few weeks, and I'll get back on track. Hopefully it also, of course, means that we can get back to regular videos and I'll be able to catch up on everything that's happened, as well as working on some new stuff. I must say, going through this whole experience has definitely made me reflect on things, on life in general, and on what I want to do. So it's made me more determined than ever to keep pushing forward and making content and trying to make rally YouTube better. I've got loads of things for loads of ideas for things that I want to try. So stay tuned. Hopefully now that we're back, we can keep doing videos, and this channel will get even better. Enough about that though. I had to pause, sorry. I have to keep pausing to drink water because otherwise I get all gross. I don't want to talk about me endlessly. I want to talk about the stuff that you guys actually subscribe for, which is rallying. And that, I think we have to talk about the promoter thing, don't we? Because that is the biggest story. It is huge, 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 huge news for the sport, and something that we have been waiting for absolutely ages. So, in case you missed it, during Rally Finland, the FIA finally announced that the commercial rights for the WRC and for the ERC have passed to a new owner. So, a company called Cosmopolis Group, I'm going to butcher that a few times, and Park Square Capital have effectively bought WRC promoter GmbH for an undisclosed sum, and the rights to promote the WRC and the ERC for an undisclosed period. It's apparently a long-term deal. I think I heard Colin Clark say in a Dirtfish video that he thinks it might be up to 25 years. So this is a significant deal, and I expect suspect a significant amount of money has changed hands. Now, you probably haven't heard of Cosmopolis or Park Square Capital, and why would you? But they have now bought the rights to promote WRC and ERC. So Cosmopolis is a French automotive technology company. They produce a software for the automotive industry, as well as having retail dealerships and rental and import services. So an automotive company, but not really in the motorsport promotion sphere. Park Square is an investment group, so I suspect what they have done is put a substantial amount of money into the deal, or obviously the view to earning some of that money back plus profit. So yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Are they up to the job is, of course, the big question. And, well, I mean, it's very difficult to answer that, isn't it? I think it's going to take some time to answer that question. You know, obviously the FIA have gone really big on the PR with this, on the public relations, lots of videos on social media. FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem, he's called it the biggest deal of the century. You know, the new promoter themselves have said that, you know, they're promising big investment and they want the WRC and the ERC to be the biggest championships and brands in the world. And, you know, that's all very noble. I think first and foremost, you know, we have to be glad that a deal has finally been done. You know, I think that's positive. You know, this sale has dragged on for a while. I think the rumours started a couple of years ago at least that Red Bull and the others who've KR69 or whatever they were called. No, that's Caliron-Pere, isn't it? No, I've forgotten. I'll put it in text on the screen. You know, the old promoter. It's been a couple of years, haven't they, since they were talking about selling up. The tender was launched last year that we were looking for a new commercial rights holder. And the fact that a deal is finally over the line can only be a good thing, because it hopefully means that we will start to see some forward progress. You know, sadly, for all the good that Red Bull have done in so many other sports and activities, I think their impact on the WRC has not been anything like as significant as we would have hoped. Yes, of course, there's been good things with Rally TV and all of that stuff, but, you know, we haven't seen the growth that I think a lot of us were hoping that we would see. Will the new guys do any better? That very much remains to be seen, doesn't it? You know, they're talking about putting fans at the centre of things, of growing the sport, as I said, of making WRC and ERC two of the biggest brands in motorsport. But, you know, for all of that PR bluster, we don't actually know what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. So I think, you know, the best we can do right now is probably to have some cautious optimism, isn't it? Sorry, another little water break there. The FIA and Cosmopolis are obviously going to talk things up. You know, that's their job. Obviously, they've got the drivers on board, you know, to share that positive PR message. I think right now, unfortunately, it's just a bit too early to tell, isn't it? You know, firstly, because we don't actually know what they're planning. Some of the media coverage over the last few days have suggested that they've got all the right people on board. But it feels like, you know, right now that information isn't being shared with us mere mortals. So we're going to have to wait and see, aren't we? We're going to have to see what happens to make a proper judgment. I think, in a way, that's a little bit concerning. You know, what I would like to see is some openness, some reassurance that we're heading in the right direction, especially as these companies that have come in, they're not known for their motorsport promotional activities. But, you know, ultimately that's the way it works, isn't it? You know, they're not going to tell us everything that they're going to do. You know, this is commercially sensitive stuff, and they're not going to give all of their secrets away to Joe Public, you and I. So we'll have to see how things progress. You know, we do know who's going to be leading the promotion of the championship, so that has passed to the new CEO of WRC promoter GmbH, which is Eric Boulier. He has loads of experience in motorsport. You know, if you're not familiar, he's a former team principal of the Renault, Lotus and McLaren Formula One teams. Of course, there's this question, you know, what does he know about promotion and about rallying? Post McLaren, he was involved in the French Grand Prix, which no longer exists. You know, make of that what you will. That said, you know, I'm not totally against the idea of bringing in people from outside rallying. You know, there is a lot, of course, to be said about someone that has expertise and experience within the sport, and we have to make use of that. You know, we have to make use of people that understand the sport and know it and are familiar with it. But you also have to say that someone who is involved with something for a long time and is very close to something can sometimes get stuck in old habits. You know, if we do something for a long time, it can become difficult to change. And if you bring in new blood, bring in new perspectives. You know, they might come in and think, well, hold on, why are you doing that? You know, why don't you do this? But, you know, sometimes if you're too close to a problem, you can't always see the solution. So I'm certainly not against bringing in new blood, and you know, hopefully this new perspective will bring in some positive changes. One thing, of course, I would like to see is more free-to-air content. I think that is the obvious step that we need to take, and take some of the content out from behind a paywall. But that's a topic for another video. I think the point for me right now is that yes, there's been lots and lots of fanfare, you know, but right now there's still a lot of unknowns. There's still a lot that we don't know. I don't want to shoot down, you know, the new owners of WRC Promoter before they've even started. That's not fair. I think, as I said, it's a massive step forward that a deal has been done. But as I said, I think anything more than cautious optimism right now is probably a step too far. And it is very much a case of seeing what happens, seeing whether they give us any indication of their plans, or, you know, what types of things they start to implement in the coming months. You know, whether we see any changes this season, or whether we see any changes not happening until next season. I think, you know, we have to judge them on progress and on what happens. One thing is for sure is that this is not going to be easy. You know, there is huge potential in WRC and in ERC. Huge potential. But the promoter, you know, this new promoter is taking over at a really challenging time, you know. I've made loads of videos about the 2027 regulations. You can go back and watch them. I think it's safe to say, though, that, you know, we're in a bit of a crisis. You know, if you look at the regulations right now, there's been some real indecision. I think a lack of leadership. And I think, personally, I have a lot of concerns. I know a lot of people have a lot of concerns about the direction. You know, we've got one manufacturer team for next season in Toyota, who are building a new car to the new regulations. We've got two constructor teams which will be doing part seasons with their 2027 cars. M Sport have said that they will be building an upgrade kit, this Rally 2 Plus kit for the Fiesta. Hyundai don't know what they're doing. So we're in a weird position, aren't we? You know, the WRC2 Rally 2 field is going to significantly outnumber the new cars. So it's a very strange situation, isn't it? And I think they are inheriting that, which is a massive problem in itself. So I think there's big questions about the future of that. The wider automotive industry as well, you know, is facing huge problems right now with money and electrification and all of this stuff. And there's lots of arguments to be had about what's going to power the rally cars of the future, and what things are going to look like. You know, we need to attract more manufacturers. As I said, we've only got one manufacturer team for next season, which is problematic. And you know, it's a really, I say problematic, it's not problematic, it's a freaking disaster, isn't it, to have one manufacturer team for next season. But as I said, maybe that's a topic for another video. You know, the new promoter has said that they recognise these challenges, they're up to it. So, I mean, all we can hope is that they're right, you know, and that they are up to it. I mean, you have to say, don't you, the FIA is run by a 14-time Middle East Rally champion in Mohammed bin Sulayem. You know, he's got Malcolm Wilson, who's one of the biggest figures in the WRC, as his right-hand man. You know, whatever you think of them, personally, professionally, I know bin Sulayem is very divisive. You would hope that of all people, you know, they're deeply involved in the sport and have a massive connection to the sport. You know, you would hope that they want it to be successful. So now it's down to the promoter, isn't it? You know, they've appointed this promoter, so now it's down to them to show us that they can do it. It's a waiting game, isn't it? I suppose we'll have to wait and see. And I think that's where I have to hand this one over to you guys, you know. Do you think they're up to it? You know, do you think Cosmopolis, do you think Eric Boulier, do you think that they're the right people to lead the WRC into the future? What is the first thing that you would like to see them change? You know, what do you want to see changing in the WRC in terms of promotion? What do you think are the big things? Do you think it is more free coverage, as I said? Do you think it's different ways of doing the coverage? Do you think it's different ways of interviewing the drivers? Do you think it's different cars? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what you think, hear your thoughts and ideas. While you're there, perhaps you could hit those like and subscribe buttons. I'd be very grateful if you could give them a tickle, because after a long break we need to kick the algorithm's butt into action and remind the world that the channel is still here. Other than that, all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for watching, and thank you once again for all of your kind comments over the last few weeks. As I said, I am extremely grateful for that. You don't know how much it helped. And I will see you again in the next video, which will hopefully be much sooner than the gap between the last video.